Going live. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to National Museum Liverpool's Insight event. This is one in a series of recruitment events that we're doing at NML, and this is actually the second of two sessions which we're running on this particular topic, the first of which we held last night. We're recording this session, so if you have any technical difficulties this morning, then you will be able to access a video of the event following the close, and we'll be posting that to our jobs page and hopefully social media following the event. Welcome to the Insight event. This morning's event, we're focusing particularly on our Business Resources Directorate, and this is the area of the organisation where you'll find our support functions such as finance, our people team, as well as estates management, and those departments working mainly behind the scenes, which then enable our front of house teams to deliver our fantastic offer to our visitors. So we've got a number of speakers this morning who we'll be introducing very shortly. But the order of this morning, we'll be starting off with those intros. Then we'll talk a little bit about National Museums Liverpool, the job opportunities that we have here, and also our staff groups and benefits, what we like to refer to as our NML community. We'll also cover a little bit of detail on how to apply for the roles, how to access our systems, and there'll be an opportunity for any questions that people have. We'll be holding a question and answer session at the end. The session's due to take around 45 minutes. We think the first half will take half an hour, and then we've got 10 minutes for that Q&A. But if you have any questions as we go along, please add them to the live event Q&A. You will be able to access that by clicking on the menu at, I think, the top of your Teams screen. Send those through to us, and if we don't cover them during the actual talk itself, we'll pick those up in the Q&A at the end. So I said that we've got a number of speakers this morning. I'm going to introduce you first off to Stephanie Donaldson and pass you across to Stephanie to introduce herself. So Stephanie.
Hi everyone, my name is Stephanie Donaldson. I'm the Exec Director of Business Resources here at National Museums Liverpool, which means I lead the directorate that we're discussing today, and it's really pleased that you're here with us today. Thank you.
Next up, we've got Mark Davies from the People team. Mark.
Hi everyone. My name is Mark Davies. I'm Director of People. I've been with NML for a couple of years now, and my main job today is to keep Trevor in check while we do this presentation.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Next, we've got Ed Taylor-Robinson.
Hi, I'm Ed Taylor-Robinson. I'm the new Head of Estates for NML. I've been in the post for around about 7 weeks. And yeah, I look after the premises, so thank you.
Okay, thank you everyone. Just to finish off with a bit about me, I'm Trevor Carr. I'm Data and Policy Advisor here at NML. I've been with the organisation for 21 years in various roles, starting with finance in an admin position, moving into our pensions team, then our front of house, before moving into what was the HR is now the people team in a training and HR advisor capacity. So you can see that there are lots of ways into the organisation, and hopefully some of you on the call will be joining us in the near future. But once you're with us, there are also opportunities to move around There's lots of different specialities that we have within the museum. So those normal front of house museum ones that you would expect, our specialist curatorial positions, but also that big team of back of house, so our support functions that we're looking at particularly today. So on that note, I think we've got a little bit of background on who we are, and I'm going to hand back to Stephanie to talk through. So, Stephanie.
Thank you, Trevor. So what I didn't share a moment ago is that I joined NML just over 12 months ago. Since I started, we have restructured the Business Resources Directorate, and it's because of that restructure that we have created a number of the roles that we're going to be talking about today. But before we get to the detail of those roles, we thought it would be worth just sharing, as Trevor said, a little bit more about our history, our mission, our ambition and aims going forwards as an organisation. You might already be familiar with NML's venues, and you may well have visited the website already. If you haven't, I suggest that you do, because there's a lot more information on the website too about what we do and where we're going. But just to set a little bit of context about our history. So National Museums Liverpool was established over 150 years ago to complement really the museums that already existed in London. But in 1986 we were brought together as a nationally funded group, which is a arm's length body of a government department supported and sponsored by government, that being the Department for Culture, Media, Digital Culture, Media and Sport. And so we are the largest group of museums and galleries outside of London. We've got 7 museums and galleries that you're probably familiar with, but you might not be aware that we have 22 different buildings across the estate, not just the ones that we open to the public. We also have a trading company, National Museums Liverpool Trading, which facilitates and runs our commercial side of the business. So that's our cafes and our shops and our conference and event facilities. We've got just over 600 employees on the payroll, and in addition to that, about 150 volunteers at the moment. And we're also really, really pleased that we've been able to bring in also some Kickstart people working with us as well at the minute, which is fantastic. And we, within our 7 venues, have on display just a proportion of the 4 million objects that we have in our collections. And in a normal environment, a non-COVID environment, we welcome over 3 million visitors a year. Our mission for those visitors is about creating memorable experiences for everyone, challenging everyone's expectations. And as our values as an organisation are that we aim to be welcoming, honest and educational. And as a team, we're trustworthy, respectful and inclusive. Our vision, well, we want to be the best museum league in the world. Why would we not want to be? Museums and galleries, we want them to be places that everyone wants to see and that everyone wants to be associated with. Our offer is not just our buildings, we also have an online offer as well, and through that we want to have world-class displays and engagement programmes that make everyone feel welcome. Our colleagues, we want to be supported to be their best and give them great facilities to work in, and we'll cover that in a little bit more detail as well later. And really, our museums aspire to be part of something which is recognised externally as being a leading example in our field. And so to summarise really in terms of our aims, we want to be more representative, we want to be more self-sufficient, we want to provide memorable experiences, we want to partner with others and influence, engage and empower. Thank you, Trevor. Would you mind just moving me on to the next slide? Thank you. So a little bit more about where we aim to be, and we have an aspiration for 2030, and I'm just going to go through those aspirations. So by 2030, we will have the most representative audience and colleagues profiles within the museum sector in the UK. By 2030, we'll engage over 10 million people each year, more than 4 million visitors, and a further 6 million through our digital offer, including touring exhibitions and outreach facilities as well. By 2030, we're going to be a place where people want to work, happy to work and proud to work together. I'd say we have that already. We will generate over £50,000 a day. That would be more than half of our turnover through commercial business, through grants, through gifts and donations. We'll ensure that we provide great facilities to look after our valuable collections and our valuable staff, with accommodation that will be fit for the next 30 years, no pressure, Ed. At schools in the Liverpool City region, we'd like them to visit us at least once a year across our museums and galleries. And that our museums and galleries will celebrate their unique identities and collections, play to their strengths, delight their different audiences, and just make us proud, as they already do. And that people will recognise us as a valued leader of cultural and economic growth in the city region, and in the north of England, and really, hey, across the world. Thank you. So this slide here, perhaps not that easy to see, I'm sorry, but when you have access to the pack afterwards, you'll be able to see it in a little bit more detail. This basically shows the structure of National Museums Liverpool. So you can see the pink boxes across the top there. Business Resources is one of 5 executive directorates across the business that report to our museum director, our chief executive, Laura Pye, who in turn is accountable to a board of trustees. That's because we are what's known as an exempt charity. And so those 5 directorates, we've got art, galleries and collections care, audiences and media, enterprises and visitor experience, so that's including our commercial company that I mentioned before, and museums and participation. And then right in the middle is business resources. So business resources, as I said, has been restructured in the last 12 months, and our current structure is that we have an estates management team, and that is headed up by Ed, who's just joined us. We have a finance and procurement team, headed up by a director of finance and procurement. We have a director of information systems leading our IS and IT teams. Got director of people, that's Mark that you just met a moment ago, and he looks after our HR, people team and health and safety team, and he will give you a bit more detail on that in a moment as well. And then we've created a new team, a risk and governance team, and that's another vacancy that I'm just going to go into a bit more detail about in a moment. And that team will be facilitating and supporting effective risk management, governance, counter fraud and information management and insurance arrangements across the NML group. Thank you. I'm just going to ask if you pop onto the next slide for me. Thank you. So what we're going to do now is we're each going to take it in turn just to give you a little bit more detail about the vacancies that we have currently advertised or are about to advertise in the business within Business Resources Directorate. And the first one of those is the Head of Risk and Governance job that I've just referred to. So this is quite an exciting opportunity to lead a new small team that we've just created within National Museums Liverpool. And as I say, its purpose is to drive forward and embed effective risk management arrangements, governance arrangements, counter fraud and information management across the NML group. And there'll be a small team that will report to the Head of Risk and Governance. In terms of the successful candidate, what we need is somebody that's a really, really good communicator who can influence and engage multiple stakeholders at different levels across the organisation in areas that need support and development going forwards. So things like risk management, information management can quite often be daunting for individuals across the business. So it's about that understanding and taking good practice forwards and understanding everyone's role in that space. And also somebody that can communicate at executive leadership level and to that board of trustees that I mentioned before. In terms of the successful candidate, you might already be working in a similar governance or risk management role. You could be an internal auditor, perhaps working in an internal audit function. What we would want you to be able to demonstrate in your application is that you have experience of developing and facilitating effective arrangements and developing staff in those areas to take things forward. So in governance, information management, risk management in particular, and within a complex organisation. You might already be working in a public body or charity, and you may not, and that's okay. But if not, we'd ask that in your application you can demonstrate that you've got a sound understanding of our sector and the regulatory and governance frameworks that we need to operate in as an arm's length body of government and an exempt charity. You might already be professionally qualified in a relevant field, so qualified internal auditor, accountant, risk professional. You could be working towards a professional qualification, or you might have commensurate experience and not be qualified. If it's the latter, if you're part qualified or you are not qualified, then there's a discussion that we could have around formal training. So we may be able to support you finish your training, for example, or support you with formal training. We'd consider that. And NML, we are really supportive now as a lot of businesses are considering how they can work effectively going forwards following COVID around agile, flexible or hybrid working. And the team will cover that in a little bit more detail in a moment. But obviously we are having those discussions too internally, and therefore we would say that this role is suitable for an agile or hybrid working, and we would encourage applications from people outside of the city region for this role. Thank you. I'm going to leave that one there, Trevor, and let you take things forward. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Stephanie. Our next speaker, I'm going to hand you back to Ed, who's going to talk about the roles in estates management. Ed, you're live.
Hello. Okay, so just touching briefly on two of the roles that I have currently in my team. It's a relatively small team at the moment, 6 people, including myself, and I'm looking for 2 new members of the team. Firstly, as you can see on the slide, we are looking for an estates manager. So the estates manager is quite a key role within the team. You will be managing 3 building officers who have a portfolio of buildings within their remit. So the 22 buildings that we discussed earlier will be split between the 3 building officers. So your role is to maintain the day-to-day business as usual tasks, to ensure that any works are completed on site, to help the building officers prioritise their workload, and to ensure that we are keeping up to date with our statutory compliance, ensuring that our M&E is maintained and that the fabric of the buildings are also maintained within requirements. This role will also help to develop the long-term plans for the estates team. We are looking to go more sustainability and more energy saving, so this role will help me in developing that plan going forward. Secondly, the capital projects and energy officer. So this role really kind of sits slightly outside of the 3 building officers and estates manager. So with the capital projects and energy officer role, we're looking at taking all the capital works that we currently have, prioritising them and working to get them from conception to completion. We have a large list of projects which we need to complete for the buildings to carry on through the future. So with help from myself, the estates manager and so on, you will be primarily tasked with ensuring that we keep to our capital projects plan and that we look at sustainability and ensuring that we use energy correctly, reducing our overall utility costs and things like that. So again, very brief, but they are the two roles that currently we need for the estates department, and they are quite key for moving things forward. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ed. The next speaker who's going to talk is Mark Davies from our people team. Mark,
okay. Thank you, Trevor. I'm going to talk about 3 roles that sit under the people team. The first one is a brand new role, which is our diversity and inclusion partner. I'm going to talk shortly about all our staff groups in the next slide, and they're a bunch of voluntary groups that particularly around areas of diversity and inclusion, which advise us and help us and give guidance to the people team and the rest of senior management at NML. But there's a limit to what staff groups can do, and out of the work we've done with the staff groups, we've decided that it's really important for us to bring in a specialist on diversity and inclusion. The idea of this role is that it's an 18-month fixed term contract to help us define what we need going forward, and that would then move into a permanent position. So at the moment it's a fixed term contract. The role isn't just about our people. That is a large part of it. It also covers the whole organisation. So we will influence things like our audiences and media team, our exhibitions team, how we work with people outside the organisation. So it's quite an interesting role. It's a role that will work across the whole organisation despite sitting in the people team. It'll have a lot of interaction with senior managers and trustees, and in particular one trustee who's got some responsibility for diversity and inclusion. So it's a brand new role. It will suit someone who's been doing this kind of work before, and ideally with some background or some understanding of the public sector or the not-for-profit sector, but not necessarily. So it's an interesting role and an interesting challenge. We're expecting this person to help us move forward those ambitions that Stephanie talked about earlier, where we want to be representative of the Liverpool City region. We're not there yet. We're making huge steps forward, but this is a really critical role for us, and it has the full support of the leadership team at NML. So it's a really interesting challenge, and we're going to do an event like this specifically around that role within the next few weeks. So watch out for that, because I'd like to involve a few other people who are involved in diversity and inclusion at NML, and in particular one of our trustees. So watch out for that. That's coming soon. Within the people team, we also have health and safety. It's a very small team, 4 people, and you can see we have 2 vacancies. So we have a head of health and safety with 2 business partners and a coordinator. So these roles are not quite live yet on our system, but they're going to be within the next couple of days. So we're really keen to strengthen our team there. This is born about after some restructuring of health and safety within NML. We've got a new team, and there's 2 roles that are coming up quite soon. So we're really keen to fill those positions. And you'll find, particularly at NML, with such a varied a state of 22 buildings, and we're open to the public, and we have back of house functions. It's quite an interesting and varied role. There's all sorts of things to get stuck into in terms of health and safety. So look out for those roles, which are coming shortly. If you could move me on, please, Trevor. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit around some of our staff groups, and this is quite important, particularly in terms of diversity and inclusion role. Quite a lot of those groups there. The D&I role was certainly influenced. So the first group at the top is our what we call EDIG, Equality, Diversity and Inclusion Group. It's volunteers from across the organisation who have particular interests in the subject. It also includes the chairs of 3 other groups that are listed on there: the Disability and Mental Health staff group, the BAME staff group, and the LGBT plus group. Those groups are for people who identify with those characteristics. They're quite good functioning groups, and they'll feed things back up into EDIG, who are really there to advise the organisation. And the best example I can give of something we did very recently, it was a piece of work that actually Trevor did with our LGBT plus group, where we introduced a brand new trans inclusion policy. So we've gone through that piece of work where it felt necessary that we needed the policy. We worked on it with the staff group, we worked on it with our unions, and Trevor developed that into brand new policy that was adopted and launched some training around it. So it's a really good example of the feedback from the groups into NML. So some other groups on there, and I'm not going to touch on all of them, but you can see there's a Black Lives Matter task force. That's very much about embedding certain actions across the organisation. You can see how the D&I role would have an impact there. We also have some other groups. Thrive is really about cultural change within NML and adopts lots of activities and programme of events to help. There's an ethics group which looks about how we operate, how we do the right thing in everything that we do. There's an environmental and sustainability task force, which is really about green issues such as energy efficiency. You can see how that works across the organisation. And the last group I mentioned is the Emeriti group, which is really for some of our specialists within the museums world with long-term experience and skills, and when they retire, they still have some input into the organisation. So that's some interesting groups that we've got. I'm also going to talk a little bit about the benefits, because it's not always clear what you get when you join National Museums Liverpool. But the first thing is to say that we do have quite a generous annual leave allowance. It's up to 30 days plus public holidays. We are part of the civil service pension scheme. Now, that may not be obvious because we're not civil servants. I think Stephanie mentioned earlier that we are an ALB, an arm's length body, but we are in the civil service pension scheme. So anyone's transferring from the civil service, that it's continuous and that works. And I know it works because Stephanie did exactly the same herself 12 months ago. I think the next few points on here are around how we work. Now, due to the pandemic, we've kind of forced into working differently, or working from home like we are today. We are embedding that across the organisation. We're moving to a hybrid way of working. We've got a range of family-friendly policies. I think the best part of half our workforce are on some kind of flexible way of working, be that working from home in a hybrid way or part-time or compressed hours. So we do have very good schemes for doing that, and that's quite an attractive situation for NML and for the individuals themselves. So we encourage people to make use of that as much as they can. We do have the kind of things you'd expect: maternity, paternity pay, parental leave, sick pay schemes, and we also have quite a lot of material available for training and development. We actually do a lot of online training, not just the kind of courses you'd expect, but kind of lifestyle courses you can do for yourself and benefit from. And I'm seeing quite a large uptake in that. So that's a real benefit from NML. And then you talk about other things. Well, firstly, we give all our staff discount in our shops and cafes. We've got an employee assistance program. The 5 people I mentioned, they have a buddy scheme where they can help you, give you a bit of advice, guide you through some issues that you might be having. We've got employee recognition schemes. We have an employee benefits portal which gives discounts on high street shops, including your weekly shop at Asda, Tesco, or whatever you choose to go. We've got other discounts. We've got cycle to work scheme, travel loans, eye care scheme. So we've got quite a full range of benefits, and we keep adding to it. And because we've got a portal, it allows us to do that in a convenient way. There's access to the charity for civil servants. There's the Civil Service Sports Council, which is quite a good value for money. And it's important for me to mention, because I do a lot of liaison with the trade unions, as you'd expect in my role. We recognise 2 trade unions, recognise PCS and we recognise Prospect, and we believe roughly between them 200 to 300 colleagues or members of the scheme, and we have an active relationship. And only last year we agreed a voluntary recognition agreement with both unions. So they're important things to mention to everyone here. So I'm gonna stop here and hand back to Trevor now. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for that, Mark. I just really want to echo what Mark has said there, but also add that I've been here at NML for, as I said, a considerable amount of time now, and I work here because it's a great place to work. We've got fantastic buildings. Our venues, if you're lucky enough to work from venue, some beautiful, some architecture. Working with our collections or amongst our collections is great. But we've also got a great team here at NML, and I love coming in and working with the different people that we have. One of the advantages of working the people team is I get to work with all of our different departments, and we've got some really great people here. So if you do get the opportunity to apply, I would encourage it. The final slide that we've got is really about that application process. So how do you apply for the roles? Now, some of you may have come through our website. Some of you may have come through social media, so haven't visited yet. But our website is the key, and that's where it all starts. So all of our applications are submitted electronically. So if you go to our website, www.liverpoolmuseums.org.uk, there is a job link at the bottom of the page. So if you scroll all the way down our homepage to the bottom left-hand corner, there's a jobs link. Alternatively, you can type jobs into the search bar at the top, and that'll give you a shortcut to the jobs page. That will take you to our Recruitment Plus portal, and you'll be able to see all of the available jobs that we have live, including the ones that we've talked about today. Some of them haven't gone live yet, but we're hoping to get them up on that jobs page in the next couple of days. So keep an eye out there, or tell your friends if you think they'll be interested. When you apply, we will ask you to provide a certain amount of information, as you'd expect. We'll ask you to provide that brief outline of why you're applying and how you match the job outline that we provide as part of the advert. We'll ask normally for a current CV. Some of our jobs may have specific questions around the role, but normally it is that CV and accompanying statement. We'll also ask you to provide us with monitoring information. Now, that isn't shared with the panel, so that is about your background, and we use that in the people team to make sure that we're reaching that representative group of people and we're getting applications from everywhere. And we hope that that then helps us in our aim to be that representative museum service. And you see the faces in our museums that make you think that's a place that I could work. We ask for confirmation of right to work. Obviously, a lot of the legislation around right to work has changed, so we need to check that. And we also have our disability confidence scheme. Now, this is a government scheme that we've signed up to, and it means that if you have a disability and you meet the criteria of the job, then we can offer a guaranteed interview scheme. Which means that you're not guaranteed the role, but we will get you to the interview stage. So all of that is included in the application online. You click through that. When you log in, you can sign up with your email detail or any a social media link. So if you want to sign up and link it to your Facebook or LinkedIn profiles, then you can do that. Once you've submitted your application, what happens next? Well, you'll get confirmation that we've received your application, so you can rest easy that it's in our system. And then our recruiting managers will shortlist all of our applications, normally up to and following the closing date. Where possible, we will put the proposed interview dates on all of our job adverts, so you know when you're likely to get an interview or an invite to interview, and you can keep that date in your diary. Successful candidates, those who are taken to the next stage, will be invited to interview via our recruitment portal. So you'll get an email asking you to log into the portal, and you'll be able to arrange your interview via that. In the unfortunate event that you've not been successful at that stage, we will email you to let you know as soon as we can. And you'll also have the option to receive future alerts from the Recruitment Plus system, telling you when new opportunities come up at National Museums Liverpool. This is an opt-in service. We won't send you anything that you haven't signed up for, but it does allow you, if you do opt in, to keep in the loop for any new opportunities that come up. Okay, now that is the last of the planned sessions that we've got, and now we've got our Q&A. So I think we're looking quite nicely in terms of time. Does anyone else from the panel have anything that they'd like to add before we move into the Q&A section? No, I'm getting shakes of a head behind the scenes here. So I think if we move into the Q&A, that would be great. Okay, so we've got our first question, which says, many thanks for a very informative and friendly event. Thanks for that, Matthew. Please can I ask, is the position of estates manager, has that come up through the restructure? Ed, would you like to take that one?
Hi, Matthew. I can't speak with great detail on that, obviously, because I came post restructure. I don't believe it was from the restructure. There was a person in that role while the restructure took took hold. So I'm sure Stephanie can maybe speak in a bit more detail regarding the restructure. But from my point of view, no, it's not through the restructure, but it is, like I said before, a key element to the estates department going forward. So Stephanie, would you like to add any more to that?
Yeah, sure, no problem. Thank you, Ed. So we restructured. We had a much larger estates function that included major projects. Major projects moved out of estates, and we created an estates management team. So we had a facilities manager. That role was reshaped into an estates manager role, reporting to the new head of estates. So we've just appointed the new head of estates. However, the facilities manager has now left us. So not through restructure, but through choice. And as a result, we're advertising for the estates manager role. Now, I hope that makes it a little bit clearer for you. Thanks.
That's great. Thanks, Stephanie. Now, looking at our questions, we've not got any further ones that come in. So I'm taking that as a positive sign that we've been really informative and covered everything that anyone could possibly think of this morning. So I'll give it maybe another minute and just recap where we're at. So we have been today talking about the Business Resources Directorate. We've currently got 5 roles, 2 of which are live with finance and 3 of which are live. You've got 2, haven't you, Ed? And we've got 3 coming up in the people team, which should be going live in the next couple of days. So keep an eye out for those on our website. Applications are through our website. But this event we are recording and we will be sharing via our website following the event. So if you do have anyone who you think might be interested in any of our vacancies, then please signpost them towards our website and they'll be able to pick up the information that we've shared with you today. Okay, we've not got any other questions coming in, so I think we will end the session there. I will say thank you to everyone who has attended today. Thank you to Stephanie, Ed and Mark, our panel, who've talked through our organisation and the vacancies that we've got. And if you have any questions following this event that come to you following, you think, I wish I'd asked that, then please get in touch with us via recruitment@liverpoolmuseums.org.uk. And one of our people team will come back to you with anything that we might not have been able to cover for you this morning. So thanks again for attending, and I look forward to meeting a number of people, hopefully, when you're successful in your application with National Museums Liverpool. Okay, bye now.
Thank you, bye.